The massive view screen in the United Nations Security Council chamber flickered to life, displaying an image that would forever change human history. Dozens of world leaders sat in stunned silence as they stared at the alien faces looking back at them. James Miller stood at the back of the room, his military uniform crisp and neat. As Earth's newly appointed military attaché, he watched the proceedings with careful attention. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, and their message was clear. Earth was being invited to join their interstellar community. "We have been observing your species for some time," announced the lead alien, whose blue-tinted skin seemed to shimmer under their chamber lights. "Your civilization has reached the threshold of interstellar travel. It is time for you to join the greater galactic community." Miller studied the aliens on screen. They appeared to be of different species, some tall and slender, others short and stocky, and a few that seemed to float in midair. All of them wore elaborate robes decorated with what appeared to be military medals and insignias. The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. "We are honored by your invitation. How should we proceed?" "As is customary," another council member spoke, this one with crystalline features. "All new species must demonstrate their military capabilities. This ensures proper placement within our hierarchy." Miller noticed the slight pause, the barely hidden condescension in the alien's voice. He'd been in enough military briefings to recognize when someone was looking down on others. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. The Council sent a small delegation to Earth, landing their sleek spacecraft in a specially prepared area near Geneva. Miller was assigned to guide them, along with a team of diplomats and scientists. The alien delegates carried what looked like advanced weapons, sleek devices that hummed with energy. They seemed amused by the human security details, standard rifles and sidearms. "You still use chemical propellants?" one delegate asked, not bothering to hide their disdain. "How quaint." Miller kept his face neutral, years of military discipline serving him well. "We find they serve our needs adequately," he replied diplomatically. During the preliminary meetings, the aliens showcased some of their technology. They created force fields with a wave of their hands, teleported objects across rooms, and demonstrated weapons that fired beams of pure energy. "In 2 weeks," announced the lead delegate, "Earth will present its military capabilities to the full council. We will send a transport vessel for your representatives." As the aliens departed, Miller overheard 2 of them speaking in what they thought was a private conversation. "Can you believe they still use projectile weapons? Primitive species. They'll be assigned to the Outer Rim territories, no doubt. Perhaps in a few centuries, they'll advance enough to be taken seriously." Miller watched their ship take off, a small smile playing on his lips. He thought about the centuries of warfare that had shaped human history, about the devastating efficiency of human weapons, and about how sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. The following days were filled with preparation. World leaders debated what weapons to showcase, which military units to send, and how to present humanity's defensive capabilities. Some argued for displaying only their most advanced technology, while others suggested a more comprehensive approach. Miller, drawing on his years of experience, made a simple suggestion. "Let's show them exactly what they expect to see. Sometimes, being underestimated is the greatest advantage." The day before the Earth delegation was set to leave, Miller stood in a weapon testing range, watching as soldiers practiced with standard-issue rifles. The sound of gunfire echoed through the facility, a sound that most advanced species had abandoned millennia ago in favor of energy weapons. "Sir," a young lieutenant approached him, "are you sure about this? Shouldn't we at least show them our more advanced weapons?" Miller picked up one of the rifles, checking its weight and balance. "Lieutenant, sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The Council thinks we're primitive because we use physical bullets instead of energy beams. Let's let them keep thinking that, for now." As he placed the rifle back on the rack, Miller couldn't help but smile. The Galactic Council was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating primitive technology. Sometimes, the simplest solutions were the most effective, and humanity had spent centuries perfecting the art of kinetic warfare. The stage was set. The pieces were in motion. And soon, the Galactic Council would learn exactly why humanity had survived countless wars using their primitive weapons. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive amphitheater floating in space, with curved walls that sparkled like diamonds. Representatives from 12 advanced species sat in rising tiers, looking down at the human delegation with barely concealed amusement. James Miller stood at the center of the presentation floor, surrounded by various human weapons laid out on display tables. Behind him, a small team of Earth's finest soldiers waited at attention. The council members whispered among themselves, pointing at the primitive weapons with what looked like pity. "You may begin your presentation," Earth representative announced the council leader, settling back in a floating chair that hummed with energy fields. Miller cleared his throat. "Distinguished members of the council, Earth presents its standard military armaments for your review." He picked up a standard assault rifle. "This is our basic infantry weapon. It fires physical projectiles using a chemical propellant." Laughter erupted from several council members. One of them, a tall being with silvery skin, stood up. "Excuse me, Earth representative, but are you suggesting your species still uses solid projectiles? Actual pieces of metal propelled by explosions?" The alien's translator couldn't quite hide the mockery in their tone. "That is correct," Miller replied calmly. "We find them highly effective." More laughter filled the chamber. Another council member activated a holographic display, showing their civilization's energy weapons. "Perhaps we should demonstrate the difference in our technology levels. Watch." A target appeared at the far end of the chamber. The alien's weapon fired a brilliant beam of energy, vaporizing the target instantly. The chamber filled with appreciative murmurs. "Now observe," the alien continued, creating an energy shield around a new target. "Our basic defensive screens can stop any particle moving at near light speed. Your primitive bullets would be useless." Miller noticed one council member who wasn't laughing. A shorter, stockier alien with gray skin who was studying the human weapons with intense interest. Their eyes met briefly, and Miller saw something like understanding pass between them. "Council Member Gray," Miller addressed the quiet alien, having learned their name during preliminary introductions. "You seem less amused than your colleagues." The chamber grew quiet as Gray stood. "I have studied Earth's history," they said slowly. "Your species has fought many wars, yes." "Yes," Miller replied. "More than we're proud of." "And these weapons," Gray gestured to the display, "they have proven effective." Before Miller could answer, another council member interrupted. "Gray, surely you're not suggesting these antiquated devices pose any threat to modern defenses?" "Watch this." The alien activated their personal shield, a shimming field of energy surrounding them. "Our personal shields can deflect energy weapons powerful enough to destroy small moons. No physical object could penetrate them." Miller watched as more council members activated their shields, creating a dazzling light show in the chamber. They were showing off now, each trying to demonstrate more impressive shield configurations than the last. "Fascinating," Miller said, carefully keeping his voice neutral. "And these shields, they're standard issue for your military forces?" "Of course," came the proud reply. "All advanced civilizations use them. Only primitives would go into battle unprotected." Throughout the demonstration of alien technology, Miller maintained his professional composure. He carefully noted how each shield system worked, how the aliens relied completely on their energy-based defenses, and most importantly, how none of them seemed to understand basic physics. "Would the council be interested in a practical demonstration?" Miller asked finally. "A simple comparison of our weapons against your defensive systems." The council leader waved a dismissive hand. "If you insist, though it seems rather pointless, we've already established the superiority of our technology." As the council members continued to show off their shields and energy weapons, Miller caught Gray's eye again. The alien gave him a subtle nod, as if they alone understood what was about to happen. "Then, with your permission," Miller said, We'll prepare for a live fire demonstration. As his team began setting up targets, Miller reflected on human history. Time and again, overconfidence had led to downfall. These advanced aliens, for all their technological prowess, were about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating primitive weapons. The stage was set for a demonstration that would change the galaxy's understanding of warfare forever. And James Miller couldn't help but smile, knowing what was about to unfold. The demonstration chamber was a vast arena attached to the council hall. Holographic targets floated at various distances, and observation platforms hovered above the floor. The air hummed with energy as the council members prepared to showcase their weapons. "We will proceed in order of technological advancement," announced the council leader, gesturing to the first presenter. "Earth, being the newest and most basic civilization, will present last." Miller and his team stood to the side, watching as each alien species demonstrated their weapons. The first presenter stepped forward, a tall being whose skin rippled like liquid metal. "Behold the Mark VII plasma disruptor," they announced proudly. Their weapon hummed to life, releasing a stream of blue energy that completely dissolved a target. The chamber filled with polite applause. One by one, each species showcased increasingly impressive weapons. Some fired beams that bent around corners, others released swarms of energy that could think for themselves. One weapon created miniature black holes that swallowed targets whole. "Most impressive," Miller commented quietly to his team. "Notice how they all focus on energy-based attacks." A young soldier nodded. "Sir, are you sure about this? Their technology seems far beyond ours." Miller patted the standard rifle at his side. "Sometimes the simple solution is the best solution, soldier. Just wait and watch." The demonstrations continued. Each species tried to outdo the last, their weapons becoming more elaborate and flashy. Some council members were openly yawning at Earth's delegation, as if watching children play with toys. And now, one particularly arrogant council member announced, "Watch this." They fired their weapon, creating a cascade of energy that transformed into a flock of light-based birds. The birds surrounded a target, then exploded in a dazzling display of colors. The target didn't just disappear. It ceased to exist at an atomic level. Applause thundered through the chamber. Several council members turned to smile condescendingly at the human delegation. "Perhaps," suggested another council member, "the Earth representatives would like to withdraw from the demonstration. There's no shame in admitting when you're outmatched." Miller stepped forward. "We would still like to proceed, if the council permits." Of course," the council leader said graciously. "Though I must warn you, the targets are quite durable. They're designed to withstand advanced energy weapons." "That won't be a problem," Miller replied. "However, I have a suggestion. Since you've all demonstrated your weapons against standard targets, would any council member be willing to demonstrate their personal shields?" The request caused a stir. Council member Gray leaned forward with interest, while others exchanged amused glances. "I will volunteer," said the council member who had created the energy birds. They floated down to the demonstration floor, their personal shield humming to life around them. "My shield can withstand direct hits from capital ship weapons." Miller nodded. "Would you mind if we set up some additional sensors, just to record the demonstration properly?" "By all means," the alien replied, clearly enjoying what they thought would be another opportunity to showcase their superiority. As Miller's team set up their equipment, more council members descended to the floor, eager to demonstrate their own shields. Soon, a dozen aliens stood in a row, each surrounded by shimmering force fields of different colors and patterns. "This is unprecedented," Miller heard one alien whisper. "They actually think their primitive weapons might affect our shields." Miller walked along the line of volunteers, asking questions about their shield systems, showing appropriate awe at their capabilities. All the while, his team was quietly setting up their firing positions. "We're ready, sir," reported one of his soldiers. Miller took his position at the end of the firing range. The chamber had grown quiet, the air thick with anticipation and barely suppressed amusement. "Council members," Miller announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Earth thanks you for this opportunity to demonstrate our capabilities. Please ensure your shields are at full power." The aliens activated their shields, creating a wall of shimmering energy. They stood confidently, some even chatting among themselves, completely certain of their invulnerability. Miller gave a slight nod to his team. The moment of truth had arrived, and the galaxy was about to learn why humanity had never abandoned their primitive weapons. "Before we begin our demonstration," Miller announced, "I'd like to explain a few basic principles about our weapons." He held up a single rifle round, letting it catch the light. The council members leaned forward, some using magnification devices to study the small object. "This is a standard 7.62 millimeters round," Miller continued. "It weighs approximately 10 grams. When fired, it travels at roughly 850 meters per second." He paused, watching the aliens' reactions. Most looked bored, but Council Member Gray was nodding thoughtfully. "Now let's discuss kinetic energy," Miller said, pacing slowly before the shielded council members. "The formula is simple: 1/2 mass times velocity squared." One of the council members laughed. "Are you giving us a physics lesson? Our children learned about kinetic energy before they can walk." "Excellent," Miller replied calmly. "Then you understand that a small mass moving at high velocity carries significant energy. This round, for example, delivers approximately 3,600 joules of energy on impact." Several council members activated holographic displays, converting the measurements. Their expressions changed slightly as they reviewed the numbers. "But that's irrelevant," declared one alien. "Our shields are designed to stop particles moving at near light speed. Your primitive projectiles are far too slow to be a concern." Miller nodded. "That's exactly what I wanted to discuss. Your shields are amazing at stopping high-energy particles and energy weapons. But tell me, what happens when they encounter something moving much slower?" Council Member Gray suddenly stood straighter, their eyes widening. "You mean?" "Yes," Miller continued. "Your shields are calibrated for near-light-speed particles and energy weapons. They're expecting to encounter things moving thousands or millions of times faster than our bullets." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some council members were starting to look less certain. "Think of it like this," Miller explained, picking up a piece of paper. "If I throw this paper at a brick wall very slowly, it bounces off. But if I try to stop it too quickly..." He ripped the paper in half. "Sometimes being too powerful is a disadvantage." One of the shielded council members shifted uncomfortably. "Our shields automatically adjust to any threat." "Do they?" Miller asked. "Or are they so focused on stopping high-energy attacks that they might not even register something moving at merely supersonic speeds?" The chamber had grown very quiet. Even the most arrogant council members were now paying close attention. "Additionally," Miller continued, "your shields are energy-based, designed to deflect or absorb other forms of energy. But our rounds are solid matter. When they impact, they don't just carry kinetic energy. They have to physically move somewhere." He picked up one of the rifles. "These weapons might seem primitive, but humanity has spent centuries perfecting them. The rifling in the barrel spins the round, stabilizing it in flight. The shape is carefully designed for aerodynamics. The material is selected for optimal performance." Council Member Gray spoke up. "And you've had many wars to perfect these weapons." "Yes," Miller acknowledged. "Unfortunately, we have. Each conflict taught us more about making our weapons more effective. While other species were developing energy weapons, we were mastering the physics of kinetic impact." Some council members were now running calculations on their devices. Their expressions grew increasingly concerned as they understood the implications. "But surely," one alien protested, "our advanced materials can withstand physical impact." "Perhaps," Miller agreed. "But your shields, they're tuned for threats moving thousands of times faster than our bullets. They might not even activate against what they consider a slow-moving object." The chamber erupted in discussion. Council members argued about shield frequencies and energy calculations. Through it all, Miller stood calmly, the rifle held ready but not yet aimed. "Would you like to proceed with the demonstration?" he asked finally. The shielded council members looked at each other. Their confidence had been replaced by uncertainty, but pride prevented them from backing down. "We will continue," the council leader declared. "Surely our technology can handle any primitive weapon." Miller nodded to his team. The moment of truth had arrived. Despite all his explanations, sometimes a practical demonstration was worth more than any theory. He was about to show the galaxy that humanity's primitive weapons were anything but obsolete. The tension in the chamber was electric as Miller's team took their positions. Each soldier held a standard-issue rifle, nothing fancy or modified, just the basic equipment any human infantry unit would carry. "First demonstration will be with standard NATO rounds," Miller announced. He turned to the council members behind their shimmering shields. "Is everyone ready?" The aliens stood confidently, their shields glowing with different colors and patterns. Some even looked bored, checking their communication devices or chatting among themselves. "Weapons check," Miller ordered. His team performed their safety protocols with practiced precision. "Such an elaborate ritual for simple projectile weapons," one council member commented. "How quaint." Miller raised his hand. "On my mark." The soldiers took aim, each selecting a different shielded target. 3, 2, 1, fire. The sharp crack of rifles echoed through the chamber. Several council members flinched at the unexpected noise. They were used to the quiet hum of energy weapons. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The bullets passed straight through the energy shields, as if they weren't there. There was no resistance, no flare of energy, no dramatic light show. The shields, calibrated to stop near light-speed particles and energy weapons, didn't even register the relatively slow bullets. The rounds impacted the test plates behind each council member with devastating force, leaving clean holes through the supposedly impenetrable alien alloys. Complete silence fell over the chamber. Again, Miller ordered calmly. Another volley of shots rang out. Again, the bullets ignored the shields completely, punching through more test plates. "Impossible," shouted one council member, frantically adjusting their shield settings. "Our shields can stop anything." "Clearly not," Miller replied. He held up his hand, and his team ceased fire. Council Member Gray stepped forward, their own shield deactivated. "The humans have exposed a critical flaw in our defensive systems. Our shields are so focused on stopping high-energy attacks that they completely fail against kinetic weapons." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some members were demanding shield recalibrations, others were running simulations on their devices, and a few were simply staring at the bullet holes in stunned silence. "Perhaps," Miller suggested, "you'd like to see some of our other standard weapons." "Other weapons?" one council member asked weakly. Miller nodded to his team. They brought forward a heavy machine gun. "This is for when we need a higher rate of fire." Then a sniper rifle. This one for precision at extreme ranges. Finally, a simple shotgun. And this for close encounters. The council members watched in horrified fascination as each weapon was demonstrated. The machine gun's rapid fire turned target plates into Swiss cheese. The sniper rifle punched through multiple layers of alien armor. The shotgun spread proved particularly effective against shield generators. "Keep in mind," Miller added casually, "these are just our basic infantry weapons. We haven't shown you our vehicle-mounted guns, our artillery, or our naval weapons yet." One of the council members found their voice. How long have you had these weapons?" "We've been developing them for centuries," Miller replied. "Each generation slightly better than the last. While you focused on energy weapons, we perfected the art of throwing small pieces of metal really, really fast." Council Member Gray was examining one of the bullet holes. "The simplicity is elegant. No complex power systems to fail, no energy signatures to detect, just pure physics." The council leader, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. It seems we have underestimated Earth's military capabilities. Miller smiled slightly. That's a common mistake. People tend to assume newer always means better. Sometimes the old solutions are still the best solutions. As the implications sank in, the council members began to realize that their entire defensive doctrine, based on energy shields and advanced technology, had a massive vulnerability. And the humans, with their primitive weapons, had just become one of the most formidable military powers in the galaxy. Would you like to see some of our more advanced weapons now? Miller asked innocently. The look of terror on the council members' faces was answer enough. The emergency council session that followed the weapons demonstration was unlike any in galactic history. The massive chamber buzzed with panic as representatives from every advanced civilization argued about the implications of what they'd witnessed. Miller stood calmly at the center of the storm, watching as the mighty Galactic Council grappled with their new reality. Beside him, Council Member Gray was helping explain the situation to their colleagues. Don't you understand? Gray addressed the chamber. Our entire defensive doctrine is based on energy shields, and the humans can bypass them completely. The council leader's hologram flickered as they processed this information. But surely our ships are safe. Their weapons couldn't possibly. Miller cleared his throat. Actually, I should mention our naval capabilities. He activated a holographic display showing a railgun. This is one of our ship-mounted weapons. It fires a 25-kilogram projectile at Mach 7. The chamber fell silent as the council members ran the calculations. That's, one alien began. Enough kinetic energy to split a cruiser in half, Miller finished. And again, your shields would be useless against it. A representative from one of the most militant species stood up. We should ban these weapons immediately. They're too dangerous. Laughter erupted from Council Member Gray. Ban them. They're literally throwing pieces of metal. How do you ban basic physics? Miller nodded in agreement. The technology is too simple to contain. Any civilization capable of basic metallurgy could produce them. The council leader's hologram flickered again. What are your terms? Terms? Miller asked innocently. Don't play coy, human, the leader replied. Your species has just demonstrated the ability to bypass our best defenses. You must want something. Miller looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various council members. Earth wants what we've always wanted: peaceful cooperation and fair treatment. We're not here to threaten anyone. We're here to join the galactic community as equals. Equals, scoffed one council member. You've just proven you could defeat our best ships, which is exactly why you should want us as allies, not enemies, Miller pointed out. Think about it. Your energy weapons and our kinetic weapons complement each other perfectly. Together, we'd be unstoppable. Council Member Gray stood up. He's right. This is an opportunity, not a crisis. Human weapons could revolutionize our military doctrine. And their simple, effective approach might help us in other areas too. The chamber buzzed with discussion. Miller could see the moment when fear began to turn to curiosity. Tell us more about these. Kinetic weapons, one council member asked. How many varieties do you have? Miller smiled. Well, there's the basic rifle you've seen. Then we have machine guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, autocannons, chain guns, railguns, coil guns, Gauss rifles. Enough. The council leader interrupted. I think we understand. The question is, what now? Miller's expression turned serious. Now, we work together. Earth joins the council as a full member. We share our weapons technology. You share your energy technology. Together, we make the galaxy a safer place. The council members looked at each other. The choice was clear. Either accept Earth as equals, or face the possibility of confronting their primitive but devastating weapons. All in favor of accepting Earth as a full council member, the leader asked. The vote was unanimous. As the session ended, Council Member Gray approached Miller. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You knew our shields couldn't stop simple bullets. Miller shrugged. We had our suspicions. Your energy shields are incredible technology, but sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. And now the galaxy will never be the same, Gray mused. Change isn't always bad, Miller replied. Sometimes it takes a primitive solution to solve an advanced problem. As Miller prepared to leave the chamber, he couldn't help but smile. Humanity had just secured its place among the stars, not through advanced technology, but through the simple, reliable weapons they'd been using for centuries. The galaxy would never underestimate primitive human technology again. 1 month after Earth's dramatic demonstration, the Galactic Council chamber had been transformed. Human weapon displays stood alongside alien technology, and representatives from Earth sat among the most respected council members. Miller walked through the chamber, noticing how differently the aliens treated him now. Gone were the condescending looks and dismissive gestures. Instead, he received respectful nods and genuine smiles. Commander Miller, Council Member Gray called out, hurrying to catch up with him. The joint military exercise was a tremendous success. Our forces are already implementing your kinetic weapon designs. Miller nodded. And our troops are amazed by your energy weapons. The combination is quite effective. They stopped at a viewing window, watching as human and alien ships conducted joint maneuvers in space. The sleek alien vessels now sported traditional gun turrets alongside their energy weapons, while Earth ships gleamed with new shield generators. There's something I've been meaning to ask, Gray said hesitantly. That day, during the demonstration, you seemed very confident, almost as if. Miller smiled. As if we had more tricks up our sleeves. Exactly. Well, Miller replied, perhaps it's time to show you what else humanity has been working on. He pressed a button on his communicator. Send in the special demonstration team. The chamber's main doors opened, and a group of human scientists entered. They wheeled in what looked like a standard energy weapon, similar to what the council used. What's this? Gray asked, confused. Humanity's energy weapon program, Miller answered. We've had it for decades. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers as the scientists powered up the weapon. It fired a beam of pure energy, just as impressive as any alien weapon. But you never mentioned this. One council member sputtered. Why did you pretend to only have kinetic weapons? Miller's expression turned serious. We didn't pretend anything. We showed you our primary weapons, the ones we knew worked best. These energy weapons are effective, but we found that simple kinetic weapons often work better. Gray started laughing. So all this time, you weren't just a primitive species with powerful guns. You had mastered both technologies. We prefer to keep all our options open, Miller explained. Energy weapons are great for some situations, kinetic weapons for others. Why limit ourselves? The council leader approached, their hologram showing clear amusement. You humans are full of surprises. What other technologies have you been developing in secret? Miller shrugged. That would be telling. Let's just say humanity believes in being prepared. The chamber was filled with a new kind of respect, not just for human weapons, but for human ingenuity. They had mastered advanced technology while maintaining their simpler, effective solutions. I propose a toast, Gray announced, raising a glass of human wine they'd grown fond of. To our human allies, who taught us that newer isn't always better, and that simple solutions often work best. The chamber raised their glasses in agreement. Miller looked around at the gathered representatives of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, all of whom had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating primitive technology. And here's to the future, Miller added, where we combine the best of both worlds, your advanced technology and our practical solutions. As the celebration continued, Miller received a message from Earth. New joint research projects were already yielding results, combining human practical engineering with alien advanced science. The galaxy was entering a new age of technological development, all because some aliens had laughed at human guns. You know, Gray said quietly to Miller, Some council members are still trying to figure out how they were so wrong about Earth. Miller smiled. Sometimes the biggest mistake is assuming that advanced always means better. Humanity learned long ago that effectiveness matters more than complexity. As he looked out at the stars, Miller couldn't help but feel proud. Earth had earned its place among the stars not by abandoning its primitive technology, but by proving that sometimes the old ways were still the best ways. The Galactic Council had stopped laughing at human guns, and the galaxy was better for it.